morning and welcome back to the morning show, and we're talking to two ladies from the CFS Pritipura Children's Home, and we've been talking about about how the residents come by, how they what they do in course of a day at the Pritipura home. But now it's our call out to you, our viewers, for anyone watching us out there who wants to be helpful in some way. I'm sure there are many ways that that you could help. So let's start off with, if someone had a little bit of time or money, how do they get about contacting you, and what can they do? What can they essentially do? Ms. Pereira, maybe you can talk to us a bit about that. You've been at the home for a very long time, and this is something that we must say you've been there for almost 30 years in the capacity, in various capacities, and you've seen how it's grown. And as someone who's constantly been asking people to help, tell us, how can people help?
Well, I think that people could volunteer their time if they could go to Hendala and spend time with the children, doing some activity, even sometimes taking a thing like a movie. You know, I don't know, when we were kids, they used to have these big sort of, they used to bring the screen for birthday parties, and show them something different to what they see on TV all the time. And they can also organize things like games and competitions. Some people other than the same people who go there.
Okay.
So it will be a real change for them to see visitors and interact with them. Maybe they can bring their children along, and that will help them to see how fortunate they are, and to try to help those who are not so fortunate. Also, of course, in terms of finance, which is a terrible thing to sort of, but we did have those days quite a few foreign donors, but over the years that has dried up because there were certain difficulties about registering them here. But we have one special donor, Mr. Jack Vanden was from Holland. He has been a real benefactor, and for years he has even sent money to subsidize salaries because he thought it should be, and he still continues, and we are hoping he will continue some more. But if not, we have to start looking at our finances to do that. But you know, trust funds and people like that who can just send an annual donation, every little bit counts. So
because you can as Mrs. Silva said, you can pay for meals also if you can't, if it's not a big amount, it's not a lump sum, and you don't have it, you want to be a part, but you can't give away 50,000-60,000 or anything like that, but you want to be able to help in some way. You can maybe just give the money for a meal, for breakfast or for lunch or for dinner or for tea. And if you don't have anything to give, then if you have your time, because time is essential. I guess there's a sense of monotony for those there, because they don't get to go out very much and do a lot outside. And I'm sure you do try to facilitate various excursions, but that also must cost money for buses and for transport.
And sometimes we have people who brings a bus and takes the children, all the way to Kandy they went.
They could go to the zoo. Though we are just by the sea, we are too afraid to take them down there, and so many of them.
We have two other foreign donors that must be mentioned. Karine Moorman, she is from Holland. Then we have Mrs. Pat Walkinshaw from Scotland. They give us donors. Pat Walkinshaw has an account here for us, but doesn't release the money. That is the
I guess we have a lot of I guess you have different people who want to contribute in different capacities and so on, and other than obviously for being able to give money and of their time, is there any way else that people can help in any way?
Well, if they can just sponsor, say, a teacher who will teach some particular craft or something like that. Otherwise, it's really because of the actual condition of the residents, it's difficult to do too much with them.
And another thing that might obviously also be quite expensive is the medical bills for the place.
Exactly.
It's challenging enough, I'm sure, if you speak to someone who may visit a regular children's home with children who go to school and so on. I mean, there are those expenses too of school uniforms, books and things like that. But this is truly that much more challenging because you're looking at so many medical expenses also, and each child there would have those expenses, and as they grow older, you have to, you know, make sure that all those things are taken care of also.
That takes part of our budget, is drugs. Also the transport to the hospitals, to Ragama, we send them to the government hospitals. We don't send them to private hospitals as such, unless it's an emergency. So the transport itself costs to Colombo,
and each of them would have to make a visit.
Yes, even for one person the van has to go. So it's drugs and transport, really.
Alright, so obviously those are more expenses, and you said that there was a good doctor who walked in.
Yes.
So maybe if there are those who have some experience in the medical field, or who are able to contribute in that way, then that too is going to definitely be of help to the Pritipura home. Mrs. Pereira, something I want to check with you also is that you've been, like I said, a part of the home for such a long time, for 30 years. How have you seen it grow?
Well, we started with 2 or 3 cottages, and thanks to our benefactors, we have increased one at a time. And it's sad because we have so many applications, but it's just not possible to accommodate. But sometimes the judge would force us to take one child when he doesn't know what to do with these kids, you know.
So there is a waiting list.
Yes, there is a waiting list.
So it's not like if someone just wanted to come in or was deserving necessarily, it's not always a case that they'll get in, because obviously it is a matter of funding and being able to provide for that child right throughout.
These disabilities is of growing concern to the government itself, that to rehabilitate and care for them is a big problem in this country. So we need actually more organizations to take on caring for those who are unable to care for themselves.
Let's talk a little bit about the staff. I know we talked about the house mothers and about their dedication, but obviously there has to be some form of training that goes in to be able to take care of children who have special needs. Mrs. De Silva, maybe you want to talk to us about them.
These medical, what do you call this, Mount Lavinia. They have a Sumaga training center. We send them there for short periods, but most of them are old now, and
they learnt on the job,
on the spot,
because they come.
Individual child needs.
They have also grown old at home.
Yes, that's right.
That's right.
And I was telling you, we have a physiotherapy room, and a physiotherapist from the Ragama Rehabilitation Center. He comes, and the children really benefit by it. There was one child who, when he was brought, he couldn't even stand. Then the previous physiotherapist, he made a contraption, you know, at the rehabilitation center, and brought it and strapped him onto that, you know, so that little by little he was able to stand, and now he walks with help. But now the new physiotherapist says, no, I will make him walk alone. Now he says, now come forward, like that, you know. So, and we have, no, he can't do all the children, no, because most of them need physiotherapy. University of Colombo Medical College, they have a physiotherapy section, and they send their students in batches. So they come and help with the physiotherapy. So that's a great help, I think.
it obviously is a lot of effort to put in to constantly find solutions, but obviously there are also, like you said, with that one boy who can now walk, there is a sense of development. Do you
Yes.
find that any of them with the years, obviously when it comes to certain time in their life, they want to maybe work in some way, how do you facilitate all these, not just the physical needs but also the emotional aspirations of those who have these different needs?
There's one boy who went out to work, right, in one of the stores close by. They took the maximum out of him, made him carry heavy cylinders, didn't give him proper food. He said, "Ape gedara meeto dakkanda tiyena," like that. So then I told them, I said, don't ask him not to go. He make him realize, and then, so now he stayed back and he was not even paid. So that's very sad.
I guess not everyone does have the
Yeah.
right intentions, but it must be very difficult and daunting for you also to sometimes, they are essentially
yeah.
your own children, so you send them out into the great big world and it's not always that they're taken care of, so you have those issues also. Mrs. Pereira, any such instances that you have seen of people going, maybe just breaking out of their own comfort zones or whatever it is, and making something better of themselves?
No, not really, because they really basically don't have the ability to take care of themselves, and people out there don't have the time to spend trying to teach them something or deal with them. They have to be dealt in a special kind way, and people out there just don't have the time. That's the sad thing. I wish there was something where there would be a school for training people who they could in that case be, if they can use their hands, then to do some work. But I'm sorry to say it has not happened. And we have enough on our plate, just keeping them going daily with all their daily needs, that needs maybe some person who has in the public who will think of some project to come and get them to use, and maybe they can take the product away if they can make flowers or paper bags or something. They might be able to train them, but I don't think they can go out of our home. They have been always protected by us.
Within those walls.
Yes. So
50 years is definitely a long time to be doing this, and obviously it's not something that's going to end. It's something that has to continue, which obviously needs a lot of support. But with the 50 years, I know that the 50 years will be marked in the month of March, but you've already begun doing certain things to celebrate, or in terms of getting ready for that anniversary. So Mrs. Ferrer, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that also, about the 50 years.
Well, I'm very proud to say that we have grown in numbers and the degree of caring is much better. But a place like that only just goes on. I don't think, or I can't see how we can do better. But if people have ideas how we can do better, we are only too glad to have their support and advice.
Mrs. Silva, maybe do you want to add on something to that as well? To add on something to
yes. We started our celebrations with religious observances, with Buddhist observances. Then we had a session for Islam, another priest, and then Hindu, and finally we have a little chapel there in our premises. There we had a Thanksgiving service and prayers. So all that we have finished now in the last few days.